And now it's time for the RPM podcast. You were just petting your laptop.
So no, no, it's actually a technical problem.
It's frozen on bustyasianbeauties.com right
No!
now.
Are you ready for me to have an Eric Brennan moment? Race fans are kind of ignorant because. So this is what you sound like, Eric. So, because.
That's fantastic.
But it's because it's not explained to them.
How the am I gonna edit this?
He dropped the bomb.
You know what? You.
Oh, man.
All right, I guess that's time for a break, Josh.
I've been struggling to find the right words tonight.
Haven't we all? Welcome to the 98th episode of the RPM podcast. I am the substitute Eric Brennan yet again for the second week in a row. Sam Ballard. I'm with my boy Scott Riggleman. Scott, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
That's good. And above me on the screen, I got Josh Matthews in Waretown, USA. Josh, how are you, sir?
Why do I have to be on top?
All right, we'll trade places, I promise. Anyway, before we dive into the show, because this is usually like the first 2 seconds we have your attention here at the RPM podcast, go subscribe to our iTunes and leave us some feedback, good or bad, 5 stars preferred on our iTunes. The more people that do that, the more love we get and the more attention we get for free stuff. And with free stuff comes sponsors, and sponsors comes free stuff for you guys, our listeners. So check us out on iTunes at the RPM podcast.
I'm going to make a deal with you. If you go to iTunes and leave a review and then send us a screenshot of that review and your address, we will send you a T-shirt.
Boom.
While supplies last.
Roasted. I like that.
You got to let us know your size, too, and where to
Right.
send it and all that. But, yeah, free T-shirt. Give us a review.
And if you want
It
to
can be a bad
Sam
review.
Ballard's best friend, right. You could tweet us the screenshot, and then we can retweet it, and therefore you can get some followers. Look at that, Josh. Boom. Teamwork makes the dream work around here on the RPM podcast. You know where a lot of teamwork was going on this weekend was at Talladega, and that's where the NASCAR guys were at this weekend. Before we dive into it, we had a live show at River Rock. Scott, I know you were busy working on the cars. I was going to say yesterday, 2 days ago. So you weren't able to make it out.
He's been working on the car
real
up through today. What is the status of that car?
Oh, and Nancy's car is done. I mean, we had to change the transmission, and the torque converter is really what we had to change. What you got to take the transmission completely out to get to the torque converter. Her car was done Sunday. I mean, we worked on it 6 hours. We got it done. Last night I didn't work on the race cars. I actually had to do some paperwork for the towing company, and now I'm just doing the maintenance part on the race cars. I worked on mine tonight. Nancy's is done. Mine's done. Now tomorrow I got to work on the dirt car. We have a 100 lapper at Grandview on Sunday, so I got to work on that. That unfortunately has a bad flex plate on it. The teeth are broke off. It rocks must have hit it or something, screwed some of the teeth up. So tomorrow night I got to pull another transmission out of another race car and change that. So that's going to be fun too.
Now, did you swap the transmission, or did you pull her transmission and just change the torque converter and put it back?
Just change the torque converter. What it was, there's 3 nuts that are welded onto the torque converter, and that's what the flex plate bolts to. They broke off. So.
Oh, she's got a heavy foot.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is maybe the bolts were starting to loosen up, and that's why they broke. But I mean, I check them quite a bit, and I've never seen them loose. So I've talked to some transmission guys, and they said, the only thing that can really break them is fatigue, and the torque converter is about 3 years old. So who knows? It could just be plain fatigue, or the bolts were coming loose, and that's what snapped them.
Okay. Well, actually, folks, later this hour, coming up later this hour, one of the show members is going to dump their significant other. So stay tuned.
Oh, a fun fact, I don't have a significant other. So if you're lonely, hit me up. Hey, I got to get the desperate votes because Eric Brennan's not here.
Welcome to Christian Singles. Or Christian Mingle. What is it, Sam? You would know. Is it Christian Mingle?
I don't know. I don't believe in those dating sites. All I know is swipe right. You know what I'm saying? Just keep it swiping right.
You always check out Farmers Only.
Yeah.
True. I mean, I am down here in Charlotte. This is true. Speaking
Talking
of
about dating, you can wait 18 years and date Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s daughter.
Scott just stole my segue. Mine was a little less creepy, but we can go with it. Redneck Jesus, Dale Earnhardt Jr. had Dale Earnhardt Jr.
St. Junior.
So congratulations to
So
Dale and
the
his wife Amy.
redneck Jesus' son. So was this immaculate or no? I don't. I'm just. Come on, Catholic boy.
No, from what I know, no. I think Dale placed the order and Amy delivered. You know what I'm saying? But besides the point,
It just popped in there.
Congratulations to Dale and Amy. I'm sure she's going to grow up and be not a race car driver like Dale Jr. does wants her to be, and all good things. And if you're in the Charlotte area and you're in Uptown, he has a cool restaurant, Whiskey River, in Uptown.
I've been there before. I had a blast there. We hung out there one time. We went down there for the North-South shoot at Concord Motor Speedway, and we all shot over to Whiskey River right there in downtown Charlotte. Man, what a great time we had in there.
I'll be going there next week. I should be there now, but that's okay. I'm here with you guys. Anyway, we move on to Talladega. Joey Logano decides to win. I think it was for the 46th race. Well, it's a crapshoot at Talladega, as we saw at the live show at River Rock this past Sunday, that it's anyone's race. I mean, for goodness sakes, David Reagan was up there, and
I didn't see
guys
Cole
like
Witt.
David Reagan, Bubba Wallace. Well, I mean, not everybody wins in NASCAR. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone except who I get in the pool.
Now, do you guys remember everybody's pick from last week? Remember we all picked who was going to win the Talladega race? Who was the closest?
I remember we did that, and I forget who I picked. But,
I know my pick was Kurt Busch. I think Sam's was Michael McDowell or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and both were running pretty good up until that last wreck.
Right. Kurt Busch, I think Kurt Busch finished third or fourth or something like that.
He was up.
He might have. Let me double check. I know my boy McDowell got into a wreck.
Josh, you don't remember your pick?
No, I don't. I cared
is
so
wrong with
little
you,
about my pick. Because it was such a crapshoot. I was literally scrolling down a list and said, that's a name you never hear win, so I'm going to pick it. Just like Danica. That's how.
Wow.
Hey, I watched her practice today. Did you guys watch her practice at Indy today?
I did. Kurt
No.
Busch finished second, by the way.
You finished second? Man, I was close.
I saw there were no balloons at Indianapolis, but yes, it was a big deal. I have it in the show sheet, but that's okay. We'll talk about it now. IndyCar was testing their rookie practice or whatever it was going on in Indy today. Forgive me for all our IndyCar fans. I was working. I wasn't paying much attention. This was the last minute thing, but this begins this long stretch to the Indianapolis 500 with the balloons and the Eric Brennan tears. I mean, just an overall great event. It's very exciting, which means we have a big race weekend coming up that weekend with the Coca-Cola 600, Indy 500, and the Monaco Grand Prix.
Best weekend of the race. It really is.
I would have to agree with you on that, Scott.
Is anybody
All right,
doing?
so we're off the show sheet already, right?
Well, I just wonder, is anybody doing the double or triple duty?
Nothing's been announced that I heard of.
You said duty.
Oh, you mean
no. I think Danica Patrick tried, but that was the whole Danica double thing. If she couldn't get the full double, she got the Daytona race and the Indy 500, which is still cool. But besides that, I don't believe so.
Do you know who the last person to do the double was?
Wasn't it Kurt Busch?
Kurt Busch, yeah.
Okay.
Boom. We don't need Eric Brennan.
Yeah. Sixth at Indy, right?
Yes, and then I think he wrecked out of the Coke 600 that
he
year.
didn't make it the whole way to 600.
Yeah.
Where did Fernando end up finishing last year?
Ooh, he had a really fast race car. Josh, you are pulling out the stomps.
Yeah, well, I know he was doing really well, and then he blew up because it was a Honda or something, right?
That's
now,
right.
talking about the double, I love when people do the double. It really gives you something to pay attention to all day. But it's always been a NASCAR driver going to Indy and then coming to the 600. Would you guys like to see an IndyCar driver do the Indy and then go to the 600?
I would love to see that.
Yeah, I would too. Who do you think would be good at that? I mean, I think Marco Andretti would be great at that.
Graham Rahal, come on.
I think it'd have to be like a Ganassi driver or a Penske driver because there's connections.
I think it would probably be like a Hinchcliffe or somebody. I could see Will Power doing it, but it maybe more for publicity than actually having a chance.
I was going to say Will Power because of that Penske connection. Who I'd like to see is my boy Sebastian Bourdais. I think he'd be able to clean ass with it. But I just don't know if that would be okay with him. Fernando Alonso finished 24th last year when
there were that many cars still running at the end there, huh? Wow.
I guess so. Apparently they all weren't Hondas. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Yes, so we have a few good weeks coming up. A lot of cool IndyCar podcasts going on. I know we promote a lot of podcasts here on the RPM podcast. But with that said, we have a lot of cool podcasts going on with the IndyCars, a lot of inside views. Really cool, just overall, like Scott said, I agree, probably the greatest weekend in all of motorsports. Even if you're not an IndyCar fan or an F1 fan, you should really be an IndyCar fan. F1 has been real crap lately. It's a great day. It's a great day to be alive. Great day to be American. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or Moroccan, or
What
no,
was
that's
that other
Monaco. I'm
podcast
confused.
there was one that was giving away a fender?
Oh yeah, we talked about this at the end of last week. While you find that, Josh, I'm going to cover Talladega real quick. So, for those who didn't watch Talladega, you didn't really miss much. You saw the Fords dominate yet again. We saw that success last year on the plate tracks with, guys like Kurt Busch, who finished second, as we just talked about, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who dominated a few plate races this past year. And really, truly, without the Austin Dillon surprise victory at Daytona this past year, that pretty much was a Ford dominant race as well. So a few of the concerns that NASCAR had going into it was they actually made the restrictor plate smaller, I think by a 16th or
Well, at the
64th
live
of an
show,
inch.
I called it a restricted restrictor plate.
That's right. That's right. And I don't think NASCAR's ever done this in history. I could be wrong. Eric Brandon's not here to fact check me. But they actually did it in the middle of the race weekend. We've talked about here on the show in the past about them changing the rules up. I really wasn't for it, but it's NASCAR. They do what they want and they don't care. Which led to the concern that Jay McMurray's wreck on Friday. I'm jumping all over the place here. I can't see that, Josh.
I know you can't, but I'm not. This is my signal that I want to say something.
Go ahead.
It's the Lapped Traffic podcast. They were giving away a beat up fender, and it doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't say who it was from, but yeah. It's a nice beat up fender. It was the left rear because you can see the little circle with it where it says ethanol. But
you know what I'll do, Josh? I will go down to NASCAR Experience and steal pieces off the cars, and we can all sign it, and then we'll give it away on the RPM
Well,
podcast.
we can give away Nancy's broken torque converter. It's laying in my yard.
There you go, Josh.
That's a little heavy to hang on the wall. Are you going to get the fluid out of that for us?
Yeah, you know what? You know what I learned? If you take the broken torque converter, if you ever have a broken torque converter and you want to drain the fluid out, just get a 5-gallon bucket. When you flip the torque converter over, it sits right at the top of the 5-gallon bucket, and the fluid leaks right into the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket. It works out
most of the fluid.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah.
I actually had a torque converter that had it was drilled and tapped and had a little set screw in there as a drain
Yeah,
plug.
this one didn't have a drain. You'd think they would have a drain. That would make life so much easier.
Well, that would affect balancing it, though, wouldn't it?
Maybe.
Eric Graham's going to hate us because we're going to have a conversation about torque
You
converters.
guys are losing me, so I'm going to try to save it real quick.
We race in one of the coolest divisions ever. We have automatic transmissions.
I tell you what, I wasn't a big fan of the automatic transmission, but then again, in that Arts Truck Series I raced, sorry Sam, we're getting off topic.
No, you're good.
They ran automatics too. I love the Turbo 350 transmission. I mean, I think it helps other people wanting to drive. I think it helps Nancy wants to drive because she doesn't have to worry about shifting or nothing like that.
Yeah.
They are good transmissions and they're very durable. The only problem is that you do get a couple leaks here and there. You got to keep up on the seals and the gaskets and stuff like that. But they're a great transmission.
Yeah, it holds up and it levels the playing field a little bit because there's not a whole lot you can do.
Right.
And it adds a lot of weight though.
Oh yeah, they are heavy.
But yeah,
all right, Sam.
I like it. Go ahead, Sam.
All right. I don't know how to segue from this, but Jamie McMurray had a really bad.
Well, it's not a tranny. Jamie McMurray.
Oh my God. Anyway, Jamie McMurray had a really bad practice accident on Friday, led to some questionable tire issues. They later slowed the cars down with the restrictor plates, and I guess tires were concerned at the beginning of the race. Ended up a lot of guys short pitting. It was pretty cool to see him come off turn 4 at like 700 miles per hour and try to slow down to like 55. And a few of the guys, most of them didn't do it so well, or some of them about wrecked.
Well, the Xfinity race, they were coming down to pit road. I want to say it was.
There was water. There was water.
It was weeping out of the seams, and some guy was trying. He took the chance to try to beat somebody on entrance.
Yeah, John Hunter Nemechek.
Yeah, and he was trying to beat what Allgaier was it? And
that was Elliott Sadler.
Oh, okay. F that guy. No, and spun right across, almost hit him in the rear. In the left rear.
And was crazy about that? They gave Elliott Sadler a speeding penalty, and he basically had to speed up to
We've seen
prevent
this
getting
before.
slammed in the
We
door.
have seen
Yes.
that before, where
Yes.
they sped up to
You know,
avoid getting wrecked, and they got a
Yeah.
penalty.
Yeah,
But
they got to look at that and make it circumstantial because I mean it was either that or get wrecked. I mean the other guy made a mistake, not Elliott Sadler. And
Yeah.
Elliott Sadler got penalized for preventing a wreck. You know.
Yeah.
not for nothing. I think
All right, Mr.
the
Official.
alternative of getting wrecked, I think the best alternative besides getting wrecked would be a speeding penalty, especially at a place like Talladega. I'm not saying I disagree with you, Scott, but I don't think it's a end day type of thing. But I still think it's pretty cool. You know, I wouldn't have the balls to be like, hey, let's speed up to avoid the guy. I'd probably be like, hey, let's slow down and hope for the best. But that's why I'm not a race car driver, and you
If
two
he
are.
slowed down, he was getting it in the driver's door.
Yeah, I mean, how quick was Elliott Sadler on his toes to know? Oh my God, here he comes!
Right.
I got to floor it.
He,
You know?
I
And he-
guarantee he was watching that left mirror and saw
and he
that
ends up winning
happening.
$100,000 afterwards. I mean, so it was a win-win overall in the
That's 2
Sadler
weeks in a
household.
row, he won $100,000. He's on a
Hey.
roll. You know.
I wish I could make $200,000 in 2 weeks. in
He's
like
gonna,
8
he's
days.
going to pay for the RPM podcast 2.0 studio. That's
Which will
the
be right
word on the
next to the
street.
door. It'll be right next to the Dirty Mo studio with a couch and like a water cooler and a George Foreman grill because we're badasses.
Where are they located?
Anyway,
North
Mooresville,
Carolina?
right about. Yeah,
Can they spit on Alan Kowicki's shop?
No, but I can, and I don't, but I can. Speaking of that, so pretty much Talladega was not your average Talladega race. Quite boring. It was weird, even until the very end. It was just kind of blue balling. The most NASCAR fans, I felt blue balled because of the race. However, like I said, Logano ends up winning as of right now. Tuesday, 10:19 p.m. There is no cucumbered win for Joey Logano, so hopefully he sticks his squinty eyes out and he ends up winning the race legally.
Is that what all the Alabama fans call it? Because they don't know what encumbered means. They're like, yeah, he got a cucumbered win or something.
I like the cucumbered win. You know what I'm saying? It's like a race salad. You know, yummy, yummy.
Well,
Anyway.
if you add the right things and soak them for how long, they become pickles.
Right. I mean, I'm more a bread and butter guy myself.
I was just
but-
making reference to Hannah. So
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Hi, Hannah.
pickles.
Thanks for listening. Speaking of spitting on Alan Kowicki's shop, I heard the NASCAR Cup guys testing today on the Roval. I didn't know what it was until I went to NASCAR.com, and they're like, hey, we're testing on the Roval. So it was pretty cool. Kyle Busch wrecked. Didn't really miss much afterwards. Hopefully the race isn't that bad in November. It probably will be, though. Don't get your hopes up. Bubba Wallace welcomes a new sponsor into the sport, Worldwide Technology. Car looks sick, badass. We move on. We went over the Xfinity race. It was almost a near fuel mileage race. Spencer Gallagher wins his first Xfinity race.
Just
Go ahead,
going
Scott.
back to the Bubba Wallace deal, I know you blew right over it, but I think that's a 6-race deal for Petty Motorsports, and I think that finalizes their season. Now I think they have full season sold, so
Right.
great for them, because Bubba's doing good, and the team is on the upswing. So I'm glad they got full sponsorship now to complete the year.
You know, Scott, I like news like this to talk about. I know most people don't, which is why I skimmed over it. But my boy Christian Hicks and I were talking today. Bubba Wallace has the best paint schemes in the garage.
Oh,
Keep
they're
them
paint
coming.
schemes
The
now.
cars- The liveries, they look sexy.
Livery.
Yeah. So keep them coming, Richard Petty Motorsports.
I do like the Richard Petty Motorsports colors and designs. The only thing I don't like is they have that swoosh in front of the numbers.
Yes, I don't like it myself, but hey, beggars can't be choosy. Go Bubba
Right.
Wallace. Hopefully one day Domino's will be on the side of that race car, as it
I'm
should.
surprised they haven't been already.
Me neither, but hey, Bubba Wallace is a happy man. He'll keep trying.
So what, if he's out in less than a half hour out of the race? I mean, is it free? What?
You know, it's funny. They should work that deal like what Kevin Harvick does when he finishes the top 5, which I used to think was a scam. We're on off topic here, but like when Dave Blaney used to drive for Tommy Baldwin in the Golden Corral, when David Blaney finished top 10, kids would eat for free.
Right.
You know, kids were eating for free not very often. You know, when you put Kevin Harvick in that car and you say top 5 and free blooming onion, they gotta give away a lot of onions. You know what I'm saying?
You know, they do. We have a friend that used to work at Outback, and they said that promotion was huge. It was a big, huge success, and it was
Right.
definitely kept Outback in NASCAR. It started out with Ryan Newman, and when
Right.
Ryan Newman had that deal, we went to the Outback in Bricktown one time, and I'm like, Nancy's like, oh, we'll get a flea blooming onion. I'm like, you know what? You're going to mention Ryan Newman finished in the top 5, and they're going to look at us like they don't even know what we're talking about. But they did. They were like, oh,
Right.
cool, you watch NASCAR? That's great, you know. So it was cool. You know, it's a great promotion. I think it's really cool. Well, I kind of do it with the Stewart's root beer. If I get a top 5, you get like a free root beer float with a $10 or more purchase at the Stewart's root beer in house. So, I mean, it's definitely a good way to tie in your sponsors, and also see if the sponsors always also get to see that the sponsorship is working through their racing programs.
Right.
You know.
I mean, it's better than asking for the analytics of your race team, and who the hell has that, right?
And it's funny because when Ryan Newman had that deal, I heard him on an interview one time, and he said that they used to go to an Outback near Charlotte by their house, and they would go every Monday, and you know, if he finished in the top 5, or I think it was even the top 10 back there, and he would go and get a free blooming onion too. So it was pretty cool that he would actually go do his own.
The funny
promotion.
thing is, a lot of times they just gave the deal anyway.
Right.
Even if he didn't finish top 5, if you just mentioned like they would say, "Oh, well, it's free something."
Then it's bogus. That makes it bogus, though. Maybe, you know, leave it that, you know, you got to earn it, you know, which is cool, you know, because
We don't
makes
earn
you
it.
wanna root for him.
We root. All we do is root for him, so I get free
Yeah, but
food.
that's what I mean. If you're sitting home watching the race, you'll pay attention to Ryan Newman because you want him to finish in the top 10, so you get a free blooming onion, or
Yeah.
now Kevin Harvick, of course. So you will root him on it and pay attention to that car. You know, that's how the sponsorship works.
And then when he
you know?
wrecks out, I say, "Oh, well,
You get
let's go to
disappointed.
Applebee's.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go to the Ark."
All right. So how we doing with an hour show here, Sam? Not good.
No, but that's okay. I like talking about it. Anyway, so the NASCAR guys pack up and head to Dover, which is right in our backyard. Should be a good race. Usually it is. I've been seeing a lot on my Instagram feed, a lot of bad wrecks at Dover. Should be something exciting, hopefully better than Talladega. Speaking of Dover, we don't have a live show, therefore we're not, you know, grounded on Sunday. Any of you two have plans on going to Dover this weekend?
I was going to be going to the air show.
Okay.
I believe
You
Saturday.
know, I would love to go to Dover, but you know, of course, I got the 2 cars racing at Wall Stadium on Saturday night. You know, me and Nancy in the factory stock division, and then on Sunday we're doing something real cool. We're going out to Grandview Speedway for the Outlaw Enduro Series. Nancy's going to compete in a 15-lap ladies race out there with my dirt car, and then I'll get in for a 100-lapper. So that's what I'm doing on Sunday. But I did notice. I wish Eric was here for this because he probably knows about it, but of course he's not. But I did read on but on the marquee in front of Wall Stadium a couple of weeks back, they said, you know, NASCAR trip May 6th, you know, contact the office. So I guess Wall Stadium was running some type of NASCAR trip to Dover.
I want to go. If I mean, it's late. It'll be a late decision if I go, but there's a foundation that helped me out with some financial stuff. From the cancer thing, and they're having a car cruise on Sunday, and I was actually in talks to see if I could bring or basically borrow a factory stock to be part of this cruise, and we would cruise from somewhere in Manahawkin out to LBI. And because they have a police escort, I was going to see if they were going to let the factory stock on the road.
You know what? I've tried that. I've had my race cars in parades in New Jersey. They still got to be insured and registered to be on the road, even on a parade.
They let me do it in the Tom's River Halloween parade. I took my car through with that.
Did they really? Because I thought yours was on a trailer when you did that.
When it was primer, it was on the trailer.
Yeah.
But then I had it when I had it painted and all that. It was they actually let me drive it through.
Not cool.
I wasn't. It's not a Mustang. It's not like I'm doing burnouts and driving through the crowd.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start as a no from both of you that you guys are not going to Dover. I'm down here in North Carolina.
If there is people listening and they never been to a Cup race, Dover's a great place to go watch a race. It really is. You can see the track great. It's an exciting track. It's a fast track. So if anybody's in the area and they want to go see a race, go to Dover on Sunday.
I did like it better when it was asphalt, for what it's worth. I thought there was more like 2 grooves, whereas now it's, I don't know. They go kind of single file on me.
Dover was a track that I didn't like, but since I've gone to Dover, It's grown on me. I like it. I think the facilities are really nice. I mean, it doesn't beat the Pocono bathrooms, but what does?
Yeah, Sam likes
However,
the trough.
right, right. It reminds me to take a bath when I go home. Anyway, I agree with Scott. If you haven't gone to a NASCAR race, if you have nothing to do, even to go to the Xfinity race on Saturday, that's how I was brought up. I went to, I think, 7 Bush races before I went to my first Cup race. It's a great time out, and it's a pretty close drive, nice drive. And Delaware, the concrete state, is a nice state, and there's no taxes. So pick up all that NASCAR gear as you can, as I used to do back in the day.
And if you do go down to Dover and you're there on Saturday and say you go to the Xfinity race and you're looking for something to do Saturday night, go to Sambo's. Google it while you're down there. It's a seafood restaurant, probably about 15 minutes from the track. It's called Sambo's. Man, it's a really cool place. It's right on the water. You get in there, you should call ahead and make a reservation because the place gets packed on race weekends. And there's a lot of pictures of race car drivers and race cars and stuff. And a lot of the NASCAR teams go there and eat, and drivers. And it's a real cool bar, seafood, crab shack type joint. Then and it's a local place right in a little town outside of Dover. It's a really cool place. Check it out. It's called Sambo's.
Lisa and I don't eat seafood, so.
That's right. So you won't see the famous Josh Matthews there, but you might run into somebody else there.
My autograph session will be elsewhere.
I like fish every now and then. But with that, we are going to leave those dinner suggestions in segment 1. We're going to gear up and talk about ARCA and open wheel in the next segment. But I think that's about it.
Well, do you want to talk about the ARCA deal now while we're still doing the?
Yeah, I did watch the ARCA race. I enjoyed it. It did turn into the Speedy Dry 500 for a little while. At first, when they were doing all the green white checkers, because in ARCA they race until they get a checker flag,
Right.
And I forget who I was watching the race with, but I said, I don't like this. It tears up race cars. It tears up race cars. That's all it does is tear up race cars. The one guy was literally 100 feet from winning the race, and they throw the yellow. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, that guy deserves that win, And they won 2 or 3 times a green white checker, and they did tear up race cars. But in the end, it was an exciting finish. I mean, they went right down to the wire, and it was a photo finish. So in the end, we did get what ARCA wants to bring to the fans by having that many green white checkers and with an exciting finish, but it did tear up some race cars.
Also,
the deal that
sorry, Sam, I was gonna say also the bad news from ARCA would be former Cup
NASCAR bought them.
Well, okay, two things. Related or not, James Harvey Hilton and his son were James Hilton Jr. I think it was were killed in a crash leaving Talladega. They're on their way back, and apparently the driver lost control. And there was some report about James Hilton Sr. Possibly having a heart attack, and maybe the driver was trying to check on him or provide aid or something like that, and that caused the crash, and they were unfortunately killed. And I mean, James Hilton, what a true racer. I mean, ran in the Cup Series, won a few races, and we're talking back in the early '60s. My dad got to see him race at Trenton Speedway when he was a kid. I got to see him race an ARCA car at Millville back in I'm going to say 2012-ish.
And the cool thing about James, he's not like the drivers say. I'm not saying all drivers are like this, but James could build the race car himself. He could do it all. He could pull the tubing off the rack and put it in benders and build it and weld it. And he can even do motors. He even had an engine shop right at his shop and a dyno. He used to do all the dyno work and everything like that. I mean, he's a true throwback to the old days,
Yeah. Well, actually, Nancy had just posted. She had reposted rather. A photo of her and James Hilton.
She met him at one of the ARCA races that she attended, and she told him that she raced and it was her first year racing. That was last year, and he gave her some pointers and talked to her for like 15, 20 minutes about racing, and he thought it was really cool that she was a female involved in racing, and he supported everybody in racing. He had a lot of young guys come up and drive for him. Even a local guy here, Dominic Casola, even drove for him. Mm-hmm. He was a good guy. It's a big loss. He did. You know what the weird thing is? They got in an accident last year. You guys remember that? He flipped the hauler last year on the highway going to a race.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. If you do a little research, Sam, he did. He got in an accident last year, traveling home from a race where they flipped the hauler. You know, the truck and
Wow.
the trailer. He doesn't have a big tractor trailer like the other guys. He has the typical dually, fifth wheel dually with like a 30-foot enclosed. He did wreck it last year, and when I noticed that it happened again this year, I'm like, oh wow, man, I wonder what happened. Was he driving or was his son
No,
driving?
it neither. There was a friend, or I don't know, employee or whatever, that was driving, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, I guess I don't know if he was trying to render aid or not. And I mean, whether or not he was having a heart attack, I don't know. We have to wait till more comes out. If he was having a heart attack, I mean, honestly, maybe it was because NASCAR bought ARCA. I don't know. Um,
So did you think that he was having a heart attack and they were speeding, trying to get to a hospital? Is that what you're saying by he was trying to find
it
aid?
seemed like the the way I had heard it was that maybe the driver was trying to check on him and, maybe turning,
Yeah,
and looking back or freaking out, panicking, and, in the midst lost control and went over
right.
across the lanes and into an embankment or
So it sounds
whatever.
like it was a bad deal that got worse,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
a true shame, Um,
That,
James is going to be missed in that ARCA deal, that's for sure. He was an icon in that division, also.
well,
Um,
even I'm going to say a handful of years ago. I know it was a little bit longer than that. I think he last raced in 2013, but a few years prior to that, he actually was trying to qualify for the Daytona 500 a few times.
right. Oh
Uh,
yeah, I
Really?
remember that. Yeah, I
he
remember
was in
that.
the
Yeah.
bubble spot for it eventually got
Wow.
bumped out, and I think he was sponsored by some. I don't think it was not Viagra, but like maybe one of the like Depends or some
Yeah, yeah.
geriatric kind of thing. Um, which I
Yeah,
mean,
I think that was a Richard Childress car too. I think they purchased a good car and they were really trying hard and gave a good effort to try to make that race.
although speaking of the older guys, Herschel McGriff,
Yeah,
um,
90 years old.
and he's going to be running an ARCA race.
Is it ARCA or is it
Oh,
K&N
I'm
West?
sorry, maybe it was K&N. I
Yeah.
apologize. Sam's our fact checker here. Come on, Fox News, let's do it.
NASCAR K&N.
So you
Boom.
know, so you know how I keep saying I want to race an ARCA race, but I'm not sure if I'll ever be do it. I got plenty of time. If I can make it to 90, I got plenty of time to try it.
Well, Scott is like, I mean, I tease you about your age. 'Cause you're not really that old, but you're older than me, so I have to make fun of you. Um,
Is that how
it's
that works?
yeah, yes, that's how it works, Sam. Um, but I mean, seriously, you've raced so much, so many different things over the years, and I don't ever see you stopping, Scott. I mean,
Uh,
you managed to do your surgery around the racing schedule. You managed to fit all these other things. You traveled down to Florida to race. Like how many miles you drove down and back just to run like a 30 or 50 lap race.
yeah, it
You
was
know,
crazy.
I mean, and so to me, you're all about it, and I'll never have what it takes to really compete. Against you. I love racing with you, but uh, I mean, I don't know how you do it. It's amazing. You are a true racer. So
Yeah, it gets tiring at times, but I do enjoy it. I mean, I like working on the cars as much as I do like racing them, so that's what helps keep you going too. It's also a financial struggle too. It's
yeah,
tough paying for all these race cars.
I think it would be a little easier for me if my garage was in my backyard as opposed to me having to drive up to Tom's River to go work on my car. Um, anyway, so we'll save anything else from that for the local segment. But beyond that, Sam, I see. Or do you want to talk more about that ARCA deal with NASCAR purchasing ARCA? Do you think it's going to be good for ARCA or NASCAR or bad for either?
I don't understand why they bought it. I don't understand what they're looking for. I mean, unless there's a good
I was asking
TV
Sam.
package with ARCA. Yeah, I know, but I was giving him a minute to collect his thoughts.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
I'm
Kinda had
teasing
that
Scott.
blank stare on his face, so I thought I was helping him out by stepping in. Sam, but I mean, I have some friends in North Carolina, and they tell me the buzz down there is that NASCAR might combine the ARCA with the K&N cars. Have
K&N.
you heard anything like that?
I
Yeah,
assume something. I assumed something like that was going to happen. I think the fact that NASCAR has money to buy a series, props to NASCAR. I don't know how Monster feels about this. I mean, I don't know why they're spreading their resources so thin. I mean, why wouldn't they? The only bad part is ARCA was the whole, run what you brought type of thing, and now it's not going to be like that. Um, Okay, ARCA started as the
Okay, all right, that's better.
type of thing, and NASCAR's not going to be like that. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. You want to know what? There's money being invested back into the sport finally again. I mean, 10 years ago, even a year ago, if you told me NASCAR was going to buy ARCA, I would have said, "You crazy fool." And I think at the end of the day, I think it's a great thing for ARCA. I think it's great for everyone involved. And if it doesn't work out,
Well, does NASCAR need to find a series sponsor now? Because ARCA, I mean, it used to be like ARCA Remax, you know.
not
Well, no,
as they
they're sponsored heavily by Menards, so I'm waiting to see what happens with that. I mean, Menards is plastered all over that division.
That's
That
because you
series.
save big money at Menards.
Yeah, and they're a huge sponsor. Not only is Menards a huge sponsor, but the products sold in Menards also sponsors stuff. You know, if you sell like some type of tool or piping in there, you know, they get you to sponsor the ARCA. I hope Menards stays on. I mean, nothing's supposed to change until like through 2019, so basically 2020. So we're really not going to see what's going to happen until then.
Right.
The only thing that makes sense to me is NASCAR buying it is they do have the K&N East, they have the K&N West, but they have nothing in the middle. And ARCA is a Midwest series, so now they have the middle of the United States. So that made a little sense to me, but I'm just like I'm a little baffled by it. And it was like one of the best kept secrets because it came out of nowhere. You know, nobody heard anything about it until that morning until they announced it.
I think it was probably dismissed if anybody said anything. Like, no, like Sam said, who would have thought? I mean,
right.
Like even if somebody that you knew generally to be reliable said, "Oh yeah, NASCAR's going to buy ARCA," they'd be like, yep, and pigs can fly."
Right. Because why would they need to buy it? But unless it really is a good TV package deal with that MAV TV and that NASCAR wants a piece of it. The only other thing that I would like to see them do now is get back to the way it was a long time ago. See, back in the time in ARCA, you just bought an old Cup car and you bought it to ARCA and raced it, and it helped everybody because now the ARCA teams are getting a cheap used car and they can afford to go race. And the Cup guys were getting a little money back from their old equipment so they could sell it to them. Since all the COT cars and all that stuff came around, that kind of changed. So I like to see them get back to running old Cup cars. It would make financial sense for the NASCAR Cup Series because they could sell off their old inventory and the ARCA guys can buy it cheap. So it would help everybody,
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to keep this conversation going. Speaking of ARCA, Zane Smith ended up winning the Talladega race. Jersey boy, local boy favorite Joseph Graff from Mawa finished second. Scrolling down the line here.
He also had Brian Kremer spotting for him, who is from New Jersey too. Hot Pockets. He goes by. He was the spotter.
Yes,
so he almost had a big win at Talladega, and he talked Brian through. He talked Joe Graff through a lot of the wrecks. So Hot Pockets did a great job there at Talladega.
Bobby Gearhart finishing eighth, and some
talking about an old driver. Bobby Gearhart's been around forever, man. So
yes. Yes, indeed. And then we have Brandon Grasso finishing 20th in the Talladega race. I didn't see the race. To be honest with you, I was out partying and being a college kid, so I missed it. And I don't have MAV TV. I need to hook up with Scott.
By the way, happy birthday, Sam.
I don't think that race wasn't on MAV TV. I think it was on Fox FS1.
Oh, maybe I just need to get a life then, because I shouldn't have missed it then.
Before we leave ARCA, I mean, we got to check on Josh's future ex-wife, Natalie Decker. How'd she run?
Oh, I forgot about her.
She gave away a.
She was up front.
generator.
She was up front for a while. She does good on the restrictor plate races.
She finished 28th.
Of course.
Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, that's all right. The more she gets knocked down, the more the better I'm gonna look.
Right. And speaking of that, I'm going to end the segment here. Come back on the other side. We have a whole conversation about open wheel, not so much. IndyCar's out, as we talked about a little bit beforehand. We got Formula One. We got the local stuff. We got all this. And yet, no Eric Brennan. Stay tuned to the RPM podcast. And hey, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/racing podcast. NJ. See you on the other side.
Hey everybody, this is Sam Ballard from the RPM Podcast. Planning an event and looking for a great time? Go no further than RC2U Racing for all your portable family entertainment. RC2U turns any occasion into a competition. Check them out online at rc2uracing.com.
Our boy Dan Thomas, great fan of the show, great supporter of the show, as we all know. I had such a bad time doing that live read for this podcast. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the cat skiller or whatever it is for Ward Burton.
That's the funny thing. If you haven't seen it, Google Wood Burton cat steer.
No, it's
Cat steer.
caterpillar.
Yeah, Google
Right.
that
He couldn't
on
say
YouTube or
caterpillar.
something and listen to that interview. It's the funniest thing you'll ever hear.
I had a pretty much parallel experience with Josh, and that was recorded back before Christmas. And it was really bad. So Josh has some blackmail material. But
Side note, Dan Thomas and RC2U Portable Racing will be at Dover this weekend, providing entertainment for the fans. So,
you know what? To mention Dan Thomas too down there, it was pretty cool for me. I went there last year, and we took a couple that we're friends with to their very first NASCAR race, and they were shocked how popular it was and how big it was. And when we were walking through I guess you would call it the midway and the grandstands, we saw Dan Thomas there with his RC setup, and my friends were so impressed that there was a replica of my race car there racing. He has a Scott Riggleman 09, in his RC car of fleet there, and that was pretty cool seeing that there.
They probably thought you planned it. Like, yeah, he's just
right. I'm going to impress these people, But now Dan does a great job with that. I remember he started that business up from nothing, and he did it pretty much on Facebook. He kind of took you every step of the way. He showed you guys him building the tracks, building the cars, doing the bodies, painting the bodies. He's becoming successful with that business, and I'm pretty proud of him.
And a second cool point, because now, aside from your Riggleman 09 car, there's an RPM podcast car. So Scott's on there like with two cars. So Scott's famous.
Yeah. He still charges me $5 to race, so I'm not going to get nothing out of the
deal. He's pulling double duty, Scott Riggleman. He's a very talented race car driver.
Oh, now Sam says duty.
Right. Speaking of that, what's not duty is that IMSA signed with NBC Sports for another 6 years for their TV deal, which is fantastic for the sport of auto racing and fantastic for sports car racing. And I urge any race car driver, this is the Eric Grime advice, if you have not yet watched sports car racing, watch it. Turn it on. Don't have to watch the 24 hours of Rolex. Don't have to watch 12 hours of Sebring.
God, I love the 24 hours.
I do too. But for those guys who are just dabbing into the racing experience, turn on the 6 hours at the Glen, whatever it is, just check it out.
Am I dabbing? Is this dabbing? I don't know. So,
right.
Okay.
You know what? There's an example right there. We're just talking about NASCAR taking or buying ARCA out, and didn't they a while ago buy that?
They did. NASCAR does own IMSA.
As much there, have they made it better? Have they made it worse? Or
well, you could argue the Daytona prototype, thing a little bit, but I like it. I don't think that they've advertised it the same way. Does that make sense?
Granted, I really wasn't watching it back before NASCAR back when NASCAR didn't own it. My only problem is because I'm slow and I'm not the slickest, sharpest tool in the shed. When you get all these different racing series on and all these cars kind of look the same, once you get 6 or 8 divisions on the track, I get confused. And because I'm slow, and I admit that, which is why I'm on the RPM podcast.
Which is why you're repeating that you're slow.
That's right. So with that, I like it. They kind of lowered the classes down. At least I could tell. If I'm wrong, tweet at me. Whatever.
Well,
I don't care.
Here's the other thing. If nothing else, even if it gets spread apart and you're not as into it, it's great background noise. And then you'll hear the announcers when something crazy happens too. But I mean, it's really cool. The camera work, even through the night, because at first you'll just see headlights coming at you. But I mean, there is some great action.
That's right.
And you have. I'm sorry. I was just going to say there's weird stuff that happens, and it could be midnight or 2 a.m. during the 24-hour races, and there's cars randomly wrecking or blowing up or stuff like that. Or you watch. Right. It's exciting through and through.
And you have a lot of teams that race Penske. The Wayne Taylor with Jordan and his son. The other Taylor brothers racing over at.
Go ahead. Stroke Dale
Penske.
Coyne.
No, not Dale Corn. We're talking about IndyCar. But like I said, if you have not yet watched IMSA, go check it out.
Wasn't one of the Coyne teams involved with the last 24 hours? Or one of their drivers?
You got me. No idea. I'm
sorry,
I'm
Sam.
tapping out for the night.
Okay.
You're good.
Just on a quick side note, the guys that do the Dinner with Racers podcast,
Ugh.
they're sports cars drivers. Just to let Josh know.
So I like them as drivers, not as a podcast. I don't know. Actually, I don't. I
Speaking
don't
of driver-
dislike their show. I just I dislike Scott talking about their show.
You know who disliked the show in the Formula One race? Team Red Bull, because we saw another episode at Baku. Not another episode at Baku, but the Red Bull guys going at it again. Max Verstappen decided to be, as Eric Graham puts it, an a-hole and just drove right in the back of Daniel Ricciardo. But
No.
Verstappen's,
No. Wrong way around. Ricardo.
there was a
I'm waiting, Sam.
There was a zig and a zag. Ricardo was blocking, and didn't Verstappen slam in the back of him?
No, Verstappen was the one blocking.
Oh, well, shows you how much I've been paying attention. to Formula One.
Because their numbers aren't big enough. Sam is slow, and
Right, that's right. That's right. I need big numbers.
come on,
Big
Liberty
numbers.
Media, you made them bigger, but not big enough.
That sounds like a serious personal problem. Anyway, Hamilton wins the race. Kimi Räikkönen finishes second. Bottas looks like he was on his way to win the race. Ends up having Martin Truex Jr. luck and blowing a tire, running over a piece of debris, and ending his day. He wasn't very happy. Luck be. And it just overall was another F1 race at Baku. I'm a huge fan of Baku. Force India finishes on podium. I believe that was Sergio Perez who finished on the podium, and the only F1 current driver to finish in the podium for all the Baku races. I didn't see the race. If I'm making
Where did
this all
Haas
up,
end up?
Oh, Josh. Give me
You
one
know I'm
second.
going to ask that every time.
Yeah, well, usually Eric Brennan's here to filibuster while I can do this. So thanks, Eric Brennan, for not being here. Love you long time. But it was one of the cool things that we've seen. Let's see, is the Honda success. Honda being the top tier midfield team.
Top tier midfield. Why is that a category? This is you complain about them having too many classes in IMSA and getting confused. And F1's just as bad if you're going to organize it like that.
Well, speaking of bad, Haas didn't have that good of a weekend. Kevin Magnussen finished 13th, and Roman Grosjean finished, I guess it says 15th. He didn't really finish. So with that, they move on from Baku to Spain. CC Magusta. And after that,
Spain.
Monaco, we talked about earlier with the whole weekend, but balloons, Formula One, Ferraris.
Well,
and
Formula
Kurt
One's
Busch.
the only one with balloons, right? That weekend.
IndyCar's the one with balloons that weekend.
Yes.
So speaking of Formula One, you guys got a chance to at least watch or listen to the Formula E race. I did not get to see it. Scott, you brought up that was in Paris.
Paris, yeah.
Paris.
And once again, it looked like they had a great crowd and everything. That series is
Those
definitely on the
walls
up and
are
up,
too
and I
high,
think it's
though.
gonna be
Did you see the
What?
banners that were like stacked like 4 high? Like you couldn't even like if you had fans over there, they wouldn't be able to see the track.
really.
Yeah,
Wow.
was,
It's a work in progress.
yeah.
Oh.
But I thought the racing was overall pretty decent. Not their best race, but there was definitely contact. I mean, cars bumping, and they came in, changed front and rear wings on. Oh, geez, I forgot. After like an early race incident, they were slamming tires. You saw smoke. People trying to make last-second moves, diving down, locking them up, taking people out. The fight for I believe it was second and third place. Oh my God, that was a terrific battle throughout the last 15, 20 laps. Scott, how do you feel about the car change? I almost said driver change. The car changes.
I don't like that. I really
No?
that is one of the turnoffs of that sport. I wish they could figure out how to switch the batteries real quick. I don't like
That
car
is the
change
plan
thing.
for within the next, I believe, 2 years. They're going to go to the whole race.
Josh, do you know if those cars are AC or DC current?
They should be DC.
I think they're AC.
You think there's an inverter in there to run an AC motor?
No, that's right. The AC is the inverter, right? No, they have batteries. You're right. They're
Yeah,
direct
so
current.
they should be DC, but you can run an inverter to make it AC at the motor. But Eric Graham will yell at me if I talk any more about little nitpicky parts of the car.
AC, DC, back in black. I mean, we can keep
Highway
going with this.
They were on the highway to hell, Sam.
Aren't we all, Josh?
You know what though?
Keeping up with
you guys
current.
always bash TV coverage. Like, you guys like picking on the TV coverage. I think Dario Franchitti does a great job at those.
I think that they have actually pretty good television coverage. It is a little awkward, the handoffs between some of the announcers, and this is where Eric Brennan may or may not get on my case. He may support me here. I don't know. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of Bob Varsha, and it seems like he gets short-ended a lot, and he'll like catch up to speed, and then they kind of like jump on him, and it feels a little awkward because I think he has good input and insight. I know, not to go into the NASCAR too much, but they did for the Xfinity race. They did the drivers only comment announcing. Now I like that. Eric Brennan hates it. He thinks it is annoying because he only believes
Who
professional
cares what Eric
announcers.
Brennan thinks? He's not here.
Eric Brennan cares what Eric Brennan thinks, and Eric Brennan thinks he's in charge of everybody. Or better than
I'm
everybody.
on the fence with that too. I kind of agree with Eric, and I kind of agree with you. I do like it, but I don't like it for the whole race. I think if they did like half the race and then switch back, to
Give him
the
a
regular
segment
guys,
or something, right?
Yeah, give them a segment, give them a section in the middle of the race to spice it up a little bit. The whole race, I think it got a little old. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I think that their handoffs and their their intro outro stuff was a little awkward and clunky, but now Eric doesn't like it because they weren't professional announcers, but I liked it because if you think about it, you have Dale Jr. and you have Jeff Gordon, and then you have Michael Waltrip. Even I mean, as much a lot of people think he was a joke, but at the same time, they provide real insight as to what's going on in those cars on the track. I mean, Larry McReynolds is great. He was a crew chief. He's been around the cars his whole life, and I think that's fantastic. But hang on, Sam, hang on. But these drivers, because they've been in the cars doing what you're watching on the screen, they can tell you really what's happening or what it's like in the cars, and it's a really unique insight. And it's part of why Scott and I can be part of the show while Eric drones on and says that what he thought was a great race was actually really in reality a terrible race or something like that. So Sam, now that you finished that yawn, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's really impressive that Larry McReynolds is sharp as a tack still. Yeah, and we see guys like Darrell Waltrip, even Jeff Gordon fade out. Just my opinion. I hate talking about the racing coverage overall, unless it's really, really bad, like Michael Waltrip and the Fox guys trying to do a Will Buxton on NASCAR's pit road.
Well, Sam, how do you feel about when they bring Ken Squire and Ned Jarrett on for the Darlington?
I like that. But there again, it was just a segment. It wasn't the whole thing.
I agree. Yes, Scott. And that's good. But it's this is not the best word to use.
It really brings me back to my childhood. That's who I grew up listening to. So I do like that for a segment.
Yeah, I agree. No. And I'm with you. But it is technically kind of a gimmick, right?
Well,
it's a promotional thing.
That was at the throwback race at Darlington, right?
Yeah,
it was a throwback.
But the throwback is a gimmick.
Right. You're right. It is a gimmick, but it's a cool one.
No, I'm fine with it, and I think it's great that they do it. But in reality, it's a gimmick, and I think that the drivers announcing is also a gimmick. But enough on that. Let's continue on with our open wheel. We did enough about it. IndyCar was off.
IndyCar was off. Real quick on a more serious note, but yet celebrating his life and career. Today marks the 24th anniversary of losing Formula One champion Ayrton Senna.
That sucks. That was awkward.
Guess we don't have any Ayrton Senna fans here on the RPM
Well,
podcast.
it does suck that Ayrton Senna. I mean, the closest I ever got to I did Nigel Mansell. That was pretty cool.
Okay.
I met him at Loudon, New Hampshire, when I think he was teammates with Mario Andretti back then for a little while.
Well,
Kmart cars.
I will take Josh out of his misery. All I wanted to say was the documentary Senna is a fantastic film. If you have some free time,
I was just saying
must-see race movie.
I was just saying
real
that
quick
it sucks
while we're talking about movies. This is totally off topic. Josh, I watched Apollo 13 last night.
You did?
Your honor, of course. Yeah, it was great. It was a great movie.
Awesome. I'm glad you liked it.
And if you're curious what these two are talking about, go check us out on Patreon, and you can get your subscription to all this this awesome access.
You can get this free stuff that you paid for. It's free once you paid.
Links on our Facebook page. Anyway, with that, we're going to head more towards the local flair. Yes. Is that how we're feeling it? Yes. I think that's where we're going to go. Real quick before we get into it, to connect the open wheel to the local, my job, World Karting Association, and the Vega Road Racing Series is at Atlanta Motorsports Park this weekend. So for any of those who do listen to the show, best of luck. Should be a great event. I heard the weather's not looking too good, but nonetheless, AMP is probably one of the nicest facilities that the karting community gets to go to. Besides Daytona, obviously, and other tracks, but I just think it's really cool. And good luck to all our competitors.
Sam's like,
Talking about that Vega tire, I'm telling you what, they do a lot for karting. They do a real lot for karting. I went to my niece's race go-karts on the Sunday series at Wall Stadium, and I went to their annual banquet at the end of the year. I couldn't believe how much stuff Vega gave out. They gave out jackets, duffel bags, sets of tires to these kids. I mean, everything, hats, coolies, everything. I couldn't believe how much stuff Vega did for those kids, and they're a great tire, I think.
Sam, you said Vega. Well, I mean, we were saying Vega does a lot for the sport, and you said the weather's not looking too good. Does Vega make rain tires?
They do.
Awesome. So get your rain tires.
They do. Though the road race guys don't really race in the rain. I guess it's a preference thing. That's the race directing stuff. I'm not as familiar with the road race, though. I'm getting there. But a great group of guys. I had something to say. Oh, yes. More information, visit worldkarting.com. And it's pretty easy to get go-karting. If I had some extra money and I wasn't a poor college student, I'd probably be racing go-karts right now myself. But anyway,
they have a better URL than we do.
You're right. Well, that's because we have because we're that important. Worldkarting.com. Check out their Start Karting page on the homepage. Anyway, moving on from AMP to Wall Stadium Speedway, our backyard. Scott, I know your other half didn't have a good night at Wall Stadium. What happened to Nancy? Did you hit her?
Yeah, I didn't hit her. In the heat race, she went after the heat race, and Scott, the car's not. In practice, she said the car's not running right. It feels like it's fluttering and breaking up off the corner. So I jumped in the car and took it out in the last practice, and it was fluttering and breaking up coming off the corner. But at the end of the straightaway, it felt like the cam was floating, like it was leaning out, almost like we had a rocker arm off. Like we're down on 7 cylinders.
Was it vibrating?
Not really vibrating bad. No, not at all. And so when we came in, we thought it was valve train. We pulled the valve covers off, so we adjusted the rockers. There was no rocker studs broken. All the rockers were tight. So then when we start looking at the distributor, thinking it's a module, then I'm thinking, well, maybe it's the fuel. Maybe there's a foam from the fuel cell getting into the jet, and the car's just leaning out real bad at the end of the straightaway. So then now it was heat race time. So we sent her out in the heat race. We just told her to ride around in the heat race, which she did. She came back in. We tried to fix it for the feature, and then we, under further investigation, when we had a little more time to look at it, we noticed that the nuts on the torque converter were snapping off. So there was we didn't have much time. We were the third feature that night, so we didn't have time to go get a torque converter and pull the transmission and stuff. So we just sent her out to take the green so she can get paid in last place points and keep her handicap system going. So she had a tough night. The car's fixed now.
But those points matter. They do.
Oh yeah, I mean she's still got like 18 points, so that's quite a bit for going out and taking a lap. She was disappointed though. I mean, she was like 10th or 11th in points or something, so I kind of hurt her there. But it's only 3 races into a 25 race schedule,
and it happens.
More points race.
I mean,
it happens. It happens to everybody. Everybody has a bad night over there. So she had hers early in the season.
Yeah.
The car's fixed. It's repaired. I'm actually going to take it out in the first practice Saturday, make sure everything's good, and then I'll turn the car over to her.
You're a stand-up gentleman. She. Side note. Now we're going to get to the dirty stuff, where we're going to talk about which one of the show members is going to dump their significant other. Now, Scott, Nancy had posted something. I believe almost like a fantasy pick for a heat race lineup for next week.
It's not really a fantasy pick. She's really into numbers, man. She works at an accounting firm, so she's real good with spreadsheets and everything. And she knows how the handicap system works. So just by going off of who was there last week in the handicap system, she figured out the heat races for next week. Of course, they can get screwed up if someone doesn't show up or if somebody new shows up or something like that,
Right.
But she has it figured out where she's starting on the pole in one of the heat races and I'm starting third. So she in the same heat race, so I would be behind her. So she texted me a picture of what she thought the lineup could possibly be. Um, so she sent it to me. She's like, "If this happens, what should I do? Should I start on the pole or should I scratch to the back of the field?" I said, "No, start on the pole." "Why wouldn't you start on the pole?" She's like, "Because there's some jerk starting behind me," which
No,
was me.
I'm
So
going to correct
I
you. You said
texted,
because the asshole behind me is what
there's
she
an asshole
said.
behind me. So she's meaning me. I said, "Yeah, that's why I want you to start up there so I could dump you. The fans would love it." Tell me the fans would love me if I dumped my wife on the racetrack. How cool would that be?
Well,
Wow.
after Haberstick, got engaged on the racetrack, if you dump her on the
Right, right.
racetrack, why
Stevie
not?
got
Let's just
engaged
have
on the
fun.
racetrack too, you know.
That would end Scott and Nancy's relationship
Yeah,
over at the edge of
They're
divorce.
already on the
Unfortunately.
edge of divorce. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, you could be up there to compete with Bowman Gray at that point.
Yeah.
Almost.
Anyway, speaking of Bowman Gray, I'm going to Bowman Gray this Saturday for the first time.
Right, really?
You can
Why?
tell Nancy that I'm actually getting out. Scott, Josh, it's my last weekend here before I head home. I wanted to go. It's a bucket list item of mine. Leave me be.
Can you?
Leave me be.
As long as you boo the whole night.
I will. You know what?
Sam, a little tip going to Bowman Gray, you better leave early, man. They said the traffic gets backed up. They said it
Yes.
takes hours to get into
Yeah.
that place.
Luckily for me, I'm going with my buddy Jake, who probably listens to the show. Hey, Jake. And if you don't, screw you, Jake. And he gave me a time and place, and we're going to head out. I have finals next week, so this is my last hurrah before I go back up north.
Now,
So,
didn't the car
I'll-
just climb the fence over at Bowman Gray?
Yes.
Again?
I was
Yeah, I
watching
seen a picture of that today on Facebook. That looked pretty scary.
Yes, they had it on Fox News. I believe it was yesterday or today. They
Oh,
got
so
it
you know
messed
it's
up.
real.
They said Winston-Salem, South Carolina, and we all know that
North Carolina.
it's in North Carolina. That's right. Anyway, regardless, we move on. The modified feature, Jimmy Blue.
You don't want to talk about whether or not they should have a catch fence?
No, I'm tired, Josh. And that's not an argument. That's just facts.
It's
They
pretty
should have a
obvious.
catch fence.
Catch fence.
There is no argument there. That's like saying Eric Brennan should get a life. I mean, there's no argument there. We all agree that he should.
Fair enough.
Jimmy Blue wins the modified race over at Wall Stadium. Dom Federico takes home.
Just touching on Jimmy real quick. He was actually at Stafford Springs, Connecticut for qualifying and practice for the Whelen Modified Tour race at Stafford. He actually flew back from Stafford to make it in time to run the heat race and race the feature because he is the points leader at Wall Stadium. So he actually flew into the Monmouth Executive Airport, which is
How's
right next to
bragging
Wall
camp
Stadium.
going?
He's Iron Man. Jimmy Blue is Iron Man.
He made it 20 minutes before his heat race, and he jumped in the car, won the heat race, and won the feature. Good job, Jimmy.
So Dom Federico took home the checkered flag in the 25-lap Sportsman feature.
Wait, they
Elliot
made
Wall-
25 laps?
let me get through this first, and then we can trash the Sportsman.
Okay.
Factory stocks Elliot Wall takes home the checker to the number 17.
He made it through tech?
Thanks for the T-shirts, Elliot. That's all I have to say. 4 cylinders. Brian Osborne wins again, and Legend Car feature Mike Alcaro.
It's
Mike-
Brain Osborne again.
Oh wow, Brian, you need to get your name fixed on the website. That's all I'm saying. Or talk to Jeff Karat.
But
Jeff Karat's
just to
great.
touch on the feature finishes and stuff, things are going to get shaken up next weekend because now we're back to the traditional handicap system. We were just going off of pill draw and where you finished in your heat race is where you start in the feature for the first 3 races. Now we got 3 races in, and they'll be going back to the traditional handicap system. So things are going to really
That's
be
right.
shaken up next week.
And Bridgeport raced. However, I've been trying to find the results and I can't. So we will find it and post it on the website later after.
Good job, Chris Garback. We have no idea where you ended up. You just send me crazy pictures of you. That's about it.
Real quick, in like 2 minutes or less, y'all can talk about the Sportsman feature because I don't want to sit here and trash talk the Sportsman guys. I heard it was not a good race. I heard that Eric Lane finished in the pits and he finished 8th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So
I
that
mean, they
explains
were.
how tough a race it was.
Yeah, they thrashed on that car to get it ready. They ended up showing up late to our live show at River Rock just because they were trying to get the car together, get it good enough to get it there. Then they had to take it back home and then work on it more to get it, actually properly fixed. I heard Kyle Sisko, tried to shoot for the moon. I don't know who he made contact with, but he launched that thing and kept it, going in the right direction. didn't even pit afterwards, just rolled around. And my joke was that hey, if you stay on the track and finish, you'll probably get a top 5. But I look, I love Wall. I love the track crew guys, the officials, everybody. It's great, but the sportsmen have to be single file and they have to go last. Uh, you can't make the other divisions wait like that. I think that's just my
We
2
waited so
cents.
long on the grid that a bunch of people actually got out of their cars and had to run to the bathroom again. That's how long we were sitting on the grid waiting for our race to go out.
Yeah, I believe it.
And it wasn't my fault.
Yeah,
Not
for
your
once,
fault.
Sam was out of the state. Um, so the factory stock race. Now how did that go for you, Scott?
Oh, it was a good race. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I did get put to the back on lap 18. I got in contact with the car trying to pass for 4th. I just tapped the car in front of me. He spun, which was a shame because we were having a great race together. And we
So
both,
Scott was naughty.
Yeah, and so we got sent to the back for that. But I still finished 8th.
Who
So
who was it,
uh,
by the way?
John Bowers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, me and Bowers got together. I mean, it was my fault. I had a good run coming off the corner, and I was trying to get underneath him, and I just tapped him a little bit in the back, and he spun. As soon as I tapped him, I slammed on the brakes, and I was praying he would save it. And he spun, so I got sent back to the back for it. But I was able to make it back up through there and then finish 8th with only like 5 laps to go. So it is
Oh,
what it
it
is.
looked like 21 cars. That's not a bad field, and for you to
Yeah,
get back up to
we had
8th,
21 cars.
that's still an
Yeah.
accomplishment. So
Yeah. I mean, the factory stock division's strong. I mean, that's the second week in a row we had 21 cars. So, that's a great class. The crowd was a little light again. There wasn't a great crowd there. It was decent for early in the season as it is, but it wasn't great.
I heard the
Um,
weather was a little unpredictable, and it looked like they had rain coming. So I think that might have scared a few people off.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, the dark clouds did roll in, and it got windy again, and we did have a little mist on our windshield when we did roll out for our race, but it cleared up. It didn't rain.
It's that
Um,
vortex.
it was the vortex scared it away. But bad night at the racetrack's better than no night at the racetrack, and
That's right. That's right.
now this
And
weekend I got some exciting stuff going on. I got the 2 cars going the wall. Nancy will be racing again. I'll be racing again, and then on Sunday, Nancy's going to race in her first dirt race. We're going to go out to Grandview Speedway with the dirt enduro car I have. She'll do a 15-lap ladies race, and I'm going to do a 100-lap enduro. So that's going to be a lot of fun on Sunday.
Yeah, you giving her pointers for how to get around on the dirt?
You know what? I don't know if you guys ever been to Grandview, but it's almost identical to Wall Stadium. It's got banking and everything, but it's a dirt track. And
Other than the turns go up rather than down like at Wall.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, you know what? Don't go out there and try to be a dirt racer the first time you're on the dirt track. Just go out and run it like Wall Stadium and see how you do. Feel it out.
It can be a bumpy track though.
Yeah, a bumpy Wall Stadium. I told her, I said it's gonna be a bumpy, dusty Wall Stadium, but just drive it like Wall Stadium. You're your first time on dirt. Don't try to go up on the cushion and get sideways and stuff like that. You're not gonna be ready for that. But if you drive a sensible race, you'll do fine.
I've been to Grandview 3 times. Fantastic racetrack. Probably my favorite dirt track that I've been to. No, never mind. El Toro is my favorite dirt track I've ever been to, but apples and oranges.
Another thing about Wall Stadium for this upcoming weekend, demolition derbies are back. They're having an 8-cylinder and a 4-cylinder demolition derby.
And it's not the sportsman feature.
It's not the sportsman. The sportsmen's are racing there. I think they have twin 25s for the 4-cylinders, late models, and factory stocks. And the night's going to be capped. The modifieds are off this weekend, just to let everybody know that there will be no modifieds this weekend.
But you're not missing anything. Trust me. The demo derby.
The demo derbies are great. It's good. I hope they get a good car count. She's paying big money, like $1,500 to win.
Wow.
For each division. Yeah. So hopefully the cars show up, and the night's going to be capped off by, like I said, 2 demolition derbies.
I think with that money, and as long as it gets promoted, I think you're going to have plenty of cars there.
I mean, that should be enough to entice some of the old guys back, like Cadillac Sam. What do you think, Sam Ballard?
Hey, listen,
How about
you got the namesake, buddy.
Son of Cadillac Sam. Neither you or your brother ever want to follow in your father's footsteps and do demolition derbies?
Yeah, but we chose to go to college, and I think afterwards...
That's the worst. That's the biggest mistake you made in your life, man. I'm telling you.
Right. I know. I do want to do a demolition derby one day. However, I'm not going to lie. I know my dad listens to the show, and I'm not blowing smoke up his ass. I don't think I could ever fill those shoes, and that's probably one of the biggest things. The reason why I don't want to do demolition derby because I probably
You're
will
pretty
fail.
tall.
Besides the point,
I tell you what, I like Josh always says, I've raced all over the country, many divisions. I also did a lot of demolition derbies all over the country, and I tell you what, man, there's nothing like looking over that back seat, looking over your right shoulder, lining somebody up and full tracking their ass all the way across the track and nailing them. And like we always say, we're going to try to bend your bumper up to your dome light. It's the best feeling in the world.
It helps you get rid of that aggression, that pent up college Catholic boy aggression.
hey. I believe the fifth on this one.
Hey, Sam, I'm using your Easter table, so I hope your family doesn't get ticked off.
Yeah. Gotta remind him again. Anyway, speaking of this weekend, it's Cinco de Mayo night. Cinco de Mayo this coming Friday or Saturday rather. Grab your tacos and stuff and head down to Wall Stadium. I don't know if she's doing anything special, but I'm sure Diane does because Diane always has those cool stuff up her sleeves. Who doesn't like tacos? And if we are in North Carolina, margaritas. You know what I'm saying? I like margaritas. You should too. So I think that pretty much wraps up.
I also want to bring up
stuff.
another factory stock driver, Brian O'Shea. He saved up for what's it, the Patreon or Patron?
Patreon. He signed up for our Patreon. So thank you, Brian. We have several things I need to put together when I get 5 minutes. And we're going to start sending that way.
Thanks, Brian.
As well as Kyle Dielman. And a few others.
So we do have 2 people signed up for our Patreon thing.
We
our
have
goal
more
is to
than
get
that.
1,000 people signed up there. So we're getting close. We're only 998 people away. Please sign up for it. I mean, anything you guys can give, $5 a month, something like that, would be great. And you get to see the extra bonus footages that we were talking about earlier. We call it the victory lap, where we go off air and then we do a segment, and you guys can check that out if you sign up.
It's
for that.
worth every penny.
So how do you do that, Sam? How do you sign up for that?
Patreon.com. Go check it out. Search us the RPM podcast. I've been giving you guys the wrong link. It's not patreon.com/the RPM podcast. You have to go search it. It's some funky link. Good luck and Godspeed.
Maybe that's why we only have 2 people signed up. Thanks, Sam.
We're going to put a link up.
The link's on our Facebook page. And if you go to our website, therpmpodcast.com, go all the way to the right under the donate tab, hit that bad button, that bad boy, and you will get all this content that's free after you pay for it.
That's awesome.
So I think that's it.
All right, now we'll wrap things up with what have we learned today, Scott?
Oh, Jesus, I forgot to do that again.
Yes, I'm so glad he does.
I'm the worst. What are you learned thing? What did I learn today?
All right, we'll come back to you, Scott. Sam, what have you learned?
I learned that Scott and a 5-gallon bucket are buddies. I learned that John Hunter Nemechek doesn't perform wet. I also learned that Scott is gonna buy me root beer, and that
it's free. It's free.
Well, okay. Scott,
If I finish in the top 5, a root beer float is free with a $10 purchase.
I also learned that Nancy is a number nerd, and that Scott likes to nail asses.
After he lines them up.
Hey.
All right, Scott, you got something?
No, I'm still drawing a blank. Sam Ballard chose going to college over doing demolition derbies, which is the craziest thing ever.
Hey, you want to know what? If Diane was given $1,500 a demolition derby, I probably wouldn't consider going to college and just still be doing demolition derbies.
Yeah, make your money that way. Today I learned.
Oh, I learned that Eric Brennan stood us up 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
He's an awful date, isn't he?
And he's expensive too. Anyway, I learned that Kurt Busch finished second. Cause I honestly didn't know that. Thank you, Sam. I learned that Jamie McMurray is not a tranny. Sam did
Not that we know of.
I learned that Sam did a lot of Busch before his cup race. Sam is slow. And I learned that Scott doesn't beat Nancy.
Which is a good thing. Talk about,
he said he didn't hit her.
Talking about Kevin Harvick. Did you guys see his race? Did you guys see his car this week at Talladega?
I did. It was so ugly. It looked like herpes on a damn car. Not that I know what herpes looks like. Yeah.
Josh, did you see it? It was done in plaid.
No, I didn't see that. I don't know
the whole car was plaid. It was some type of promotion, like a lumberjack plaid, whatever.
Was it for the
I
tilted
liked
kilt?
it. I thought it was pretty neat looking.
Because the
What's
tilted
that?
kilt girls wear the plaid kilts.
Yeah,
I
it was
think.
something like that. And all the crew guys were wearing plaid shirts and stuff. I thought it was pretty neat. I don't know.
I don't.
It'll
I
be
don't care if they
soft.
don't sponsor us. Go to the tilted kilt. It's awesome. The
Yeah.
food's great.
Maybe they will sponsor us.
We can try.
Maybe
Speaking
they'll
of that,
sign up to Patreon.
if you want to sponsor us and you have a company, we have sponsor packages at our website, therpmpodcast.com. If you're not and you're a soul guy and you want to support us because you like what we do and you have some fun with us, check us out on our Patreon account over at the donate tab over on our website. Somewhere on that screen there, down the link below, do your thing, and we appreciate it, and we will promise to do
Yeah,
you.
you can have your logo
you
here
know,
or here or there or maybe over there, wherever it is. I
If you
don't know.
don't own a business, you just want to put a personal message up, man. We don't care. Happy birthday, grandma, whatever. Let us know. We'll work
We can
with
put
you.
Elliot Wall as something up right across the screen.
Elliot Wall makes fantastic T-shirts.
Elliot Wall able to fill the hole.
Anyway, regardless, I think that ends the show, gentlemen. Great time as always. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/the RPM podcast. Like us on YouTube or subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and more. Check us out on Patreon, like we said. And finally, our iTunes. Subscribe to us on iTunes.
And
Leave us
leave
some
a
feedback
review. Get a T-shirt.
and get a free T-shirt out of the deal. Because we love you, show us some love back, and we will give you a free T-shirt because you a naked hoe.
But you have to
that said-
screenshot it or get a picture of it and send it to us so that
Right.
we know that it was you. And you're you know how to.
As the
you'll figure it
millennials
out.
say, pics or it didn't happen. With
Yes.
that, Sam Ballard Jr., Scott Riggleman, and my boy Josh Matthews over at the Town Family Studio. I appreciate it. Episode 98 is complete. Use the hashtag the RPM Podcast to show all your love to the show, and we will see you next week here at the RPM Podcast.
Go to Wall.
Good night, everybody.
Every time.